All right.
Chairman, you're up.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Happy Friday to y'all. And we welcome to our agenda review. And with that, we will turn it over to.
Thanks, Chairman. Commission, good morning, everybody. We're going to discuss the agenda for next Wednesday. And then also, because we're in legislative session, Tanya's got a few legislative items to cover at the end. So we'll try to kill two birds with one stone. So we'll start the meeting with county announcements. Nicole?
Good morning, commissioners and staff. County announcements we'll do a reminder, daylight savings time is Sunday, March 12th. And that's always a good time for folks to change the batteries in their smoke detectors. So we'll talk about that. I also have two good news stories, one from finance, one from EMS. And then I'll also do a quick reminder that the statewide tornado drill is Tuesday at 10 a.m. For Severe Awareness Week. And that's all I have, Severe Weather Awareness Week.
Commissioners, we have one proclamation on the Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month, and then a series of appointments that Mr. Papoon will consolidate as best he can. And then the good news on new businesses, we don't have a zoning case this week. We're always good to have one of those. But we have some important new business items. The item G is the Brent Shelton will present the Integra Technologies agreement with the county moving forward in that project. You've all been briefed, and Lindsay or Brent is here today to answer any questions if you have questions on that. Tanya will present under item H, the capital improvement program amendment. You've all been briefed on that as well. Essentially, that just green lights us moving forward with what you as a board asked for a couple of weeks ago, is analysis of 4 options for an administration building. It doesn't commit us to any, but it allows us to move forward with an analysis. And then board of bids and contracts. The consent items, item J is a state-driven, KSA-driven agreement that our weed supervisor has to prepare an annual report. That covers that. I assume you've got that. I assume that he sends that to commission directly. The report, Tim, do you know? Oh, Lynn.
What was the question?
Does the weed supervisor send the report to the commissioners? This indicates he has to every year before March 15th. I'm just asking if the report has been sent.
It is part of the packages.
Okay, very good. It's in the packet. Great. Item. Why did I think you had noxious weed, Lydia? I'm sorry. You have parts under you, so. Item K is an agreement. This is our CAD project ongoing. It's an amendment to the agreement moving forward with that. And Rusty or Laura can answer any questions there. Item L is a agreement that we have with moving forward with our CCBHC model, and Tim can address any questions that you have on that specific item. Item M is a funding agreement between KDADS giving ComCare funds for mental health treatment for people who are in primary mental illness states. So that's a grant of $331,000 with a little bit of other funding for a total of $340,804 grant. Item N is we have an agreement with Voice Products, and I wanted Rusty to maybe talk on this one a bit if he knew. There was do we have embedded in 911 currently a social worker, or is that on the list of plan to do for 911?
Alora and ComCare are working on, I think ComCare has identified a person to serve in that gone blank. They're gonna do a first time pilot. Thank you. Couldn't come up with the word pilot. They're going to pilot. They've identified an employee. ComCare is doing the training now. When that person's embedded, and whenever they get on the phone with somebody who is having, or a family member talking about somebody who's in mental health crisis, the voice product that records everything, this contract is a no cost amendment to ensure that we have the add-on that protects that HIPAA information as it's recorded is what it does. So to get into more detail, that's the gist of it. Is we're adding a service to this contract to ensure that the information is protected whenever it's recorded and retained. So that makes sense.
I assume that Voice Products this is probably going on around the country besides just us,
I would assume so.
where they can they can be recorded, but it's just not.
They offer
public.
They offer the service to protect the information to
protect it.
However they manage that.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, Rusty, thanks. What is the difference between what this will be and what 988 does, and how do they work together?
So 988 is suicide prevention.
Yeah. 988, it's similar to 7500. It's the crisis line for mental health crisis and suicidal ideation. This is for calls that go to 911 because there are people that should probably call 988 that call 911 instead. So we're going to have a staff person embedded in 911 that will be able to take those calls, transfer. So if a call comes into a regular call taker, they may identify early on that it should go to
I see.
the care manager.
Good. Very helpful. Thank you.
The body of 911 will triage those calls and either refer them out to a mobile resource that may not be police or over to ComCare or wherever it needs to go.
Very good.
So,
okay, thanks.
So let me ask you one more question on that then. Is it a full-time position that you're putting in 24/7 or is it 8 hours or how long is it?
this isn't a 24/7 coverage. This is a pilot. So we're starting with one person. I think they're working at 8-hour or 10-hour shift.
I think
5/8 to start with, and then we can expand if that's what.
Okay. But they're going to be responsible for the calls that are coming in that are mainly people that are thinking about committing suicide or in some kind of crisis or some other mode at that point in time, or are they going to be a regular call taker? What are they going to do if there's no calls that relate to a social worker?
I'll let Tim
do some outbound calling. So crisis, these calls are calls that should go to 7500 or 980, but they don't. They go to 911. And so historically, Alora's staff have transferred those calls from 911 over to ComCare. We're going to put somebody embedded in the call taker room so that if there are questions or multiple calls, they've got a resource. Those 911 callers have a resource to refer to. And if there's not an at that particular moment, they could be doing outbound calls to folks. ComCare does a lot of calling, bi-directional calling. So they follow up with folks that may have called in on Monday and said, this is what I'm struggling with. They work through a plan with them and they follow up on Wednesday and Friday to see how they're doing. So they'll be busy doing that kind of work as well.
This is part of the multi-layered approach, that Wichita had allocated dollars to embed social workers or mental health workers with police, and ComCare is working on that model with them. So this person could theoretically see that this is a family member calling on behalf of somebody who's in crisis, maybe not suicidal, but needing assistance. And this person may refer that to those ComCare employees who are working with officers, and they would respond. As opposed to sending officers, they would send those folks. Or if there were some need to send an officer, they would send them in addition to the officer so that they could deal with that person on site, hopefully treat them in place and keep them there. So
You'll give us like quarterly feedback then on the number of calls and what's happening with this person, so that if it is a pilot, that we're going to get feedback on this pilot program.
yes, they're going to keep ComCare and 911 will keep statistics so we can give you feedback on the progress and on how well it's serving the public.
Thank you.
At the end of the day, I guess if it works, we have to expand. And if we expand, that's going to be a budget impact. So we'll have to keep you aware. Okay, item O is a continuation of a grant that the health department gets from KDAS. I know Adrian is on Zoom and she also sent you a pretty lengthy email explaining this, that is this particular item. It's a significant increase over the grant we received last year, and there is a matching component to it, all of which is contained in the description of the item. And then item P is a employment agreement to help Dr. Stedman with her coroner duties. We have a coroner that she is contracting with to help with some of the backlog of autopsies and other things that she's responsible for. The rest of the agenda is routine business. There is a fire agenda also, and I think maybe Rusty, are you going to talk about it, or are we going to have Chief come talk about it? Chief, can you come up and grab a microphone? Maybe you could set by Rusty and kind of give the commission the update on.
Commissioner Dennis has a question.
I'd like to go back to item two. Hopefully, we're looking at not for the eradication. We talk about it.
When you come grab a microphone.
The report we have submitted is for the county in general, with everything we are done, the funds expended, our contracts we have. We do treat Sedgwick County Park, but it is on a as requested basis. I know one of the major issues out there is the stickers they're a big thing out there, and there is no quick fix to that, and there may be, and there, as far as we understand, there is no permanent fix to that. They are so ingrained, and they are native to that area. It is a matter of, I believe every year they go out and spray, but that just keeps it at bay versus eradicates them.
Now that we're starting to get the docks in and a few other things fixed there, my biggest complaint that I hear are the stickers. So, if we can start looking at, I don't know what the solution is, but we need to find something.
That is definitely something we can talk to our noxious weeds director about. As I understand it, and I'll educate myself better, but it would take the equivalent of a capital project to go through there and really eradicate the area, dig everything up, replant it, so that we had something else growing in that would basically squeeze those stickers out. But I can have a further discussion with that with our weeds director and see if there is any other ideas or anything that we haven't tried yet.
I appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. We could go on and on about stickers at the park, but and I think that we do get a lot of complaints from that chairman or commissioner. I think that I agree with Lynn. If we really want to do something significant out there, you have to bring soil in. It's a sand pit. We'd have to change the composition of the ground out there. It'd be a significant project, but we could draw something up on that. So Chief, on your grant.
Okay, on the, we're making a proposal to apply for the safer grant, which is the staffing for adequate fire response grant through FEMA. What we have proposed is to apply for 9 positions, firefighter positions. That would be 3 per shift. And we have done the background on this, and our average over the past year to 2 years is we're paying out 24,000 hours in backfill, what we call callback staffing, whether that's CBS or another term of EDP, but that's for firefighters work extra shifts at an overtime rate at 24,000 hours
A year.
Yes. Yeah. And plus there's times when we get into severe mandatory, part of that's mandatory callback as well. And when we get into mandatory callback, and we start at times having to drop a position some days. And so those figures aren't even counted to the vacant hours. Because right now our software, we don't have a way of tracking that very easily without just going day by day through 2 or 3 years trying to figure it out. What we've done, we used the same terminology that AP Triton was a company that did Derby staffing study, and we used their formula for figuring out backfill capabilities. And when we take in all of our hours and our sick leave or vacation leave, we come up with what they call a relief factor, which is that you have to have 1.14 firefighters for every one position. And with that relief factor, that makes us have to have 6 extra per shift. Right now we have 3 extra. So we're using that relief factor to come up with the 3 per shift to cover our spots. And that also aligns with what we're paying. The 24,000 hours of overtime that we're paying, which that's not normal firefighter scheduling. That is 100% callback extra duty pay. The 24,000 hours we took, if we hire one firefighter, he will work 2,912 hours schedule, 120 hours of vacation leave, and an average of 96 hours of sick leave, which comes up to each one of them we would estimate to be 2,696 hours of time. And if you take that by 9, it comes up to 24,264. So that essentially covers the overtime hours that, by doing the math. So the grant we're applying for will get 9 firefighters. It's 100% funded, 0 county match, fire department match. And it for the 9 positions plus their benefits, all their benefits, and the numbers that we got back working with budget was $2,518,281 for 3 years of 9 people, benefits and all. At the end of this, there is no mandate to keep the positions. So we're just getting 9 people 100% free for 3 years. And then if some reason it doesn't work out and we can't validate that we're saving money or coming out even, then we could attrition the positions out after 3 years if we find out this doesn't work out.
And just to be clear, that 2.5 is the total cost for 3 years. And so the ongoing cost after the 3 years, if we can keep this up, would be one third of that number, roughly, right? Thank you.
Yes.
And so assuming in 3 years you have some attrition anyway, retirements, whatever, are you expecting to come back to fill a retirement role, or is this kind of take all that into account? We're doing a little what if here, but let's say in 3 years you've got 3 people that are retired. Are you going to ask for 3 FTEs to replace those, or does this kind of take into account some of that?
Well, I think in this 3 years, we have to come back to you and show you that it broke even or it didn't.
Okay.
So, I mean, by this grant cannot supplant positions. I mean, we can't just use the grant to pay current. We have to maintain our staffing levels.
Okay.
But like I said, if we find out that it doesn't pay for itself, or maybe it only pays for 6 of the positions, then we can attrition back to the level that does pay off.
Okay. And is this a competitive grant, or is this just an automatic?
Yes, it's competitive.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
I think this is a great idea. But I just this may be in the weeds question, but are these folks going to be assigned to a regular shift if they're not being called in? But we used to use the word floaters. So they would go to any station and they would cover a 12 or 24-hour shift or whatever they had to cover. And then, so whatever time they're not being called in on, they'll just be assigned to a regular shift, but they'll have to be able to move around a lot.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
I mean, we currently run 3 per shift now. This will bump it up to 6 per shift, which meets that relief factor that we used.
Yeah. No other questions? Thank you.
Okay, so that's our regular agenda and our fire agenda. And if there's no other questions on agenda review, we'll switch to have just a quick legislative discussion. Tanya has a couple items.
Morning, Commissioners. I heard from Jessica yesterday that we have 2 bills that are coming up for hearings next week. First one is House Bill 2082. That's our county funds bill. That's going to have a hearing on Tuesday in local government at 9:30. So I just wanted to run that by you. When we had a hearing in the House, Commissioner Howell turned in written testimony, and he also testified in person. So I don't know if on written testimony, if you want that to come from Commissioner Howell again, if you want that to come from the body. And then if anyone wants to testify in person on that or via Zoom, again, that's Tuesday in local government at 9:30. So
Okay.
that's the first one I wanted to bring up. The second one is House Bill 2021. That's our juvenile justice bill. That is Wednesday. That has a hearing Wednesday at 10:30 in judiciary. And I've talked to Commissioner Howell about this. This is also one that Commissioner Howell turned in written testimony and then also provided oral testimony in person. Of course, that's the same time that we have a BOCC hearing, or excuse me, BOCC meeting next Wednesday. So there's a little bit of a conflict there. So just want to bring those to your attention and find out from you all how you want to address those hearings.
And the only other conflict I'll throw out there is on Tuesday at 10, we have a staff meeting where we're going to discuss the ARPA expenditure that the commission from the bench at a BOCC meeting a few weeks ago wanted us to provide. So that's on Tuesday at 10.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, these are both on our legislative agenda. So I do believe we need to have written testimony out there, but I think it ought to come from the commission, not from just one commissioner, because it's our legislative agenda. But I don't know if Commissioner Howe can testify also because of the constraints that we have. But I think it carries a lot more strength if the commission says that this is our written testimony rather than one commissioner.
Then Commissioner Howell, do you have anything?
Yeah, I'm just looking at my schedule here. I'm not concerned too much about Wednesday's meeting. I hate to miss, but I could. I don't know that there's anything that's incredibly controversial at this Wednesday's meeting. I could even zoom in for part of it potentially. Do we know what you said? Local government on?
That's correct. On Tuesday.
Well, I'll tell you, the House hearing was surprisingly complex. I don't know if you guys watched that or not, but we got a lot of questions from members, and we were able to answer those questions, I think, really well. And as a consequence, we were able to be successful on the House side. If the hearing goes as badly on the Senate as it did on the House, in terms of those types of questions, that'll kill the bill. I think it might be best for me to be there. Again, it doesn't have to be me, it could be anybody, but I don't mind being there.
I think he needs to testify.
I would testify on both these in person. I guess I could do both if you guys were willing to work with me. I'm not as I can watch the meeting on the ARPA. I can tune in potentially, but it's more information, I think, than questions. If I have questions, I can catch up later on the BOCC if I have to miss part of that. I think I can work that out. It sounds to me like right now, those two bills are so important this year. And the Senate, unfortunately, my experience this year is the Senate is just more challenging to get legislation to pass. And so if you don't have a good hearing in the committee, you're going to kill it. So this is kind of a critical moment for these two bills. So I think I'm willing to go if the commission wants me to go. I'm glad to do it. I do agree with Commissioner Dennis. Written testimony can be from the commission itself.
I think nods of approval, Commissioner. So we'll try to hold down the fort while you're up there.
But I want to make it clear that Commissioner Meister can sign out on letterhead that shows the entire commissioner. We don't have to come back before everybody here to approve the letter going out. Yes.
Okay. So just to confirm, the written testimony will be from the body of the commission, and Commissioner Howell, you will be there to testify on both the bills, correct?
I will. And since we have written in the House, it can just be a copy of what we put in the House. That's fine. Anyway, it's public record now. All the commissioners can see it. And that's probably the best way to get that without breaking coma here. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I think that's all we had.
What else? Does anybody? Legal, any other departments? Lindsay, you've been pretty quiet today.
Welcome.
I
Okay,
have one question. This is on behalf of Ryan Beatty, actually. We were wondering the difference from obnoxious weeds to noxious weeds. And I wanted to answer the question. The obnoxious weeds are the stickers and the noxious weeds are marijuana. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Very good.
so instead of hazard pay, do we have obnoxious pay also? All right, we're going downhill. Here we go. So we'll adjourn. Thank you, everybody. See you. Have a good weekend.
Thanks. Thanks, Chief. Yeah. Yes.